Now, interestingly enough, you think of all the turnover with this offseason and the draft, free agency, but really, there's really only a couple of guys as far as lineup, guys who almost the entire starting lineup is coming back. The only guys that aren't in the starting lineup, Mike McGlinchey is gone to Denver. So Colton McKivitz is the starting right tackle. Samson Ebukam is on to Indy, I believe.
Yeah.
So Drake Jackson's probably the starter opposite Bosa, even though Bosa we don't expect to show up in the OTAs. And then Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould's out. Jake Moody's in. Zane Gonzalez has also been brought in. So those, and then of course Hargrave steps in at defensive tackle for Kinlaw as a starter. That's a major change. But it's pretty much, as the starters that you remember offensively, defensively, special teams wise, it's almost entirely unchanged. When you think about all the turnover, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually to sit here and consider that really didn't lose that many starters. I mean, I guess you could also say Jimmy Ward if you want to get a little technical, but
yeah,
last year he didn't necessarily start because he was injured, and then Gibson came in. But yeah, there's not that heck of a lot of turnover. I think that this roster, like you said, is very similar to what was put on the field during the NFC Championship game. So very strong chance that they get back there. Again, the biggest thing is just hopefully the quarterback stays healthy, because you can really maybe say that they upgraded on the defensive line with Hargrave. Although you take a little bit of a hit on the outside edge, like we've talked about. But if Drake Jackson can step in and have an amazing season, then you don't lose too much, out of the edge. And I'm not worried about Nick Bosa. Obviously, we know he's going to be there in one training camp when they sign him and everything. He typically doesn't come to these OTAs, and they're not mandatory. So I'm sure that he's not missing much, and he does his own training, and it seems to be paying off because every year he's a monster out there. So I'm pretty sure Nick Bosa is taking care of himself, and he'll be fine. But overall, I think this team, I think they got better. I mean, I know they didn't go crazy this offseason, but they've added, again, Javon Hargrave was just massively part of that Eagles roster. We take them away from them and strengthen our team by taking away a strength of their team, one of our probably biggest competitors in the NFC. And then they did add some good depth. I want to see, what these newer guys look like. Obviously Isaiah Oliver, Miles Hartsfeld. I want to really see what they have. I know we have Colton McKivitz there at right tackle, but they brought in a few other guys, Feliciano and Matt Pryor. I want to see what these guys bring to the table, because it's not like they did nothing this offseason. They did bring in some new guys, and I'm curious to see how they adapt to this roster and where they're going to end up. Will they become starters? Will they become role players or depth pieces? So interested to see that. And then obviously you have to look at who's going to take that leap. And we've mentioned that before. Again, Drake Jackson, I think there's tremendous pressure for him to step up. It will be interesting to see if, how Drake's doing in training camp, to maybe say, or not training camp, in OTAs and whatnot. And maybe in the next couple of weeks, if they're evaluating this and saying, you know what, we do need another veteran edge. Yannick Ngakoue is sitting there. He's sitting there. He's sitting there. Go scoop him up.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, Leonard Floyd, Ngakoue,
Mm-hmm.
there's a number of edge guys. And maybe these OTAs will give them an indication of, at least what they have. And then they can make a determination. Do they need to go outside for an edge guy? They drafted Robert Beal. Is Beal going to step in? Or does he look so raw that they feel like he's more of a developmental guy? We'll find out in the coming weeks. I think the interesting spot, too, could be along the offensive line at tackle, where McKivitz steps in for McGlinchey. You've got Trent Williams, who, at left tackle. And then a lot of people don't have a lot of belief in this line after Trent Williams. I like the interior guys. I mean, Brendel was a Pro Bowl alternate. I mean, Banks and Burford are I think, foundation piece offensive guards going forward. And I'm not that concerned about McKivitz, to be honest. I mean, I think that McKivitz, one, I'd like to see the other guys besides McKivitz. I've got belief that McKivitz can step in and be a better pass protector than McGlinchey was. And as far as a run blocker, I think he could be suitable. But then it's just these other guys that I'm really interested in seeing. Matt Pryor, 6'7", 330 pounds. Jalen Moore, liked him a couple years ago, especially in the preseason when he played a lot of left tackle. I really like, what I've seen out of Jalen Moore, going way back. And, we'll see. Leroy Watson had put on a lot of good weight. I thought he looked really good in the rookie minicamp. Definitely stronger, more powerful. And then you have Joey Fisher, the undrafted rookie out of Shepherd, who's got, shorter arms. So maybe he's a guard, maybe he's a center, maybe he's not a right tackle, but he had a hard time getting through the rookie OTAs because of the heat, and it was only about 75 degrees. And then, Alfredo Gutierrez, who's a terrific guy as well, but I thought Gutierrez looked a little bit more powerful, definitely like he spent some time in the weight room. And then in the interior, I mean, Brunskill jumps to the Titans. Is Feliciano slated as Brendel's backup at center? If not, does he play at guard? Does he share time with Burford? Does Jason Poe have a role here? What is Feliciano's role? To me, I want to see just the offensive line, McKivitz, but really I want to see the backup depth and if anybody really shines. I'll tell you one guy that looked awesome in the mini camp and the rookie camp was Ilm Manning from Hawaii. He doesn't really look like an offensive lineman. I mean, he's lean. He doesn't really have a lot of bulk. He's probably about 290, 295, which is really lean by NFL offensive lineman standards, but he moves incredibly well. He's very athletic, very powerful. He looked good. He looked really good. So I'm eager to see what the Niner line looks like behind the starters.
Yeah, no, I am too. I mean, again, I think you said it perfectly. Banks and Burford, two guys, foundational guards. I think they're only going to get better. And like I said, from what I've seen of Burford, small sample size before this OTA gets underway, he looked good. He looked like he's just super, super excited to come out and play year two. You could tell. And he's got this like pep to him. And last year, a lot of people doubted this O line, especially Aaron Banks. There were so many question marks. And oh my God, Jake Brendel and Burford, who's going to play right guard? And it all worked out. Honestly, the big question mark is, Colton McKivitz at right tackle. If he can be a better pass blocker than Mike McGlinchey, it's already a W. I mean, obviously, you're going to take a dip with run blocking because Mike McGlinchey was a good run blocker, but pass protection, man. I mean, you already know. I mean, you've seen all the tweets and this, and people were coming for his head. So if Colton McKivitz comes in and he's a good pass protector, everybody's going to love the guy. That's all he has to do is hold his spot on the right side and make sure that nobody gets a sack on the quarterback. And everybody's going to revere him, and he'll be a hero. But I do worry about the depth. Maybe not so much worry, but I do want to see, like, who's going to step in. Because you mentioned so many players. Like you said, Poe, Zakel, this new guy, Matt Pryor, Feliciano. Is Feliciano going to just settle to be a bench player? No, he's a starter. He's played starting roles in the last couple of years, especially with the Giants. So I don't think he's just going to come in to accept a backup role. I feel like he's going to really come in and compete, and that's going to push guys like Burford to be even better. And same with Matt Pryor. So it'll be an interesting battle at the O-line. And I think that's what everybody was worried about in the draft is they're not drafting O-line. I think the 49ers feel confident with their guys, and typically they've done that over the last couple of years, and their O-line usually is pretty, good amongst, the teams, usually in the top 15, top 10. Like, yes, there's areas where they can improve. Nobody's perfect, but a lot of those deficiencies may be gone if Mike McGlinchey has moved on, because a lot of people were blaming the issues on that specific player. So maybe you get rid of him and McKivitz could be a gem. We'll see. He was a fifth round pick. 49ers have good kind of history with these fifth round picks. So, and he's a lot cheaper. So we'll see how it goes. I am excited about this O-line battle. And then the secondary too, that there's a lot of guys on this team. And I think the guy you mentioned last week, Taylor Hawkins, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what he can do year two. There's just a lot of players on the secondary that might take a leap. You just never know. I don't know if many people expected Talanoa Hufanga to become what he did last year, all pro in his second year. That was a huge leap. So you never know who's waiting in the wings to take this like monster leap.
Yeah, no question.